Let's head back to the Etihad. The teams making their way out onto the pitch. I wonder, Dean Ashton, if this... Listen, it's a fantastic City team. You can't take anything away from them. But this might be the best possible time to play them, given this is probably their worst season in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, and also certainly the forward players that are playing today have lacked genuine confidence and quality this season, which we just haven't seen from the likes of Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Grealish, Foden. They haven't reached the heights and the levels that they've set themselves, and for whatever reason, absolutely none of them can find it. This is an opportunity, of course it is, but if you're trying to look for any sort of scraps of hope, if you're a Plymouth player or a Plymouth fan, it's your hope that they have one of those off days again, that they lack the confidence, they miss the chances that they will create, and you could gain a bit from that, and then you're looking to obviously get something at the other end where they've looked very, very vulnerable, and it's another very inexperienced defensive lineup for Manchester City, one that I'm pretty sure won't have ever played together.
Well, you're saying there's a chance. I'm going to hold on to it, Dean Ashton. Miran Muslic has called this the highest mountain to climb for his Argyle side. But one thing's for sure, if any club in football has the spirit and the underdog mentality to get through this, then arguably it is Argyle. Remember, penalties now, full time of extra time at the Vitality will come for you over on Talksport 2 between Bournemouth and Wolves. Head straight back here for an FA Cup tie that could possibly go down in history. That's if Plymouth Argyle, sitting in the Championship relegation zone, can conquer the 4-time back-to-back Premier League champions Manchester City in their own backyard. It is live here on TalkSport with former England striker Dean Ashton and our very own Joe Shannon.
Thank you, Hugh, and good evening to you. It is days like this where FA Cup giant killers are made and immortalised, and Plymouth Argyle already know exactly what it takes. With Brentford and Liverpool vanquished this season, their hopes of reaching the FA Cup quarter-finals for the first time in 18 years face the formidable obstacle of Manchester City, albeit anything but vintage City this season, as we know all too well. But what Pep Guardiola will sense is a real opportunity for silverware in what, of course, has otherwise been a very forgettable campaign. These are the two sides, Manchester City with Ortega in goal, Luis, Rice, Ake and O'Reilly, De Bruyne and Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Grealish and Foden behind McAtee, and a star-studded City bench as strong just about as is possible for them to get. Plymouth Argyle has it in goal, Talovierov, Katic and Pleguezuelo, Sorinola, Giabi, Boateng and Ogbeta, Wright and Mumba either side of Bundu up front. The floodlights are on here at the Etihad. 7,800 travelling fans have made the trip from Devon. They've already beaten Brentford, they've already beaten Liverpool. Can Plymouth Argyle make it the most memorable FA Cup hat-trick here in Manchester? City will get us underway. From left to right in the first half in their sky blue shirts, white shorts and dark blue socks. Plymouth Argyle in the dark green shirts, and the game is off and underway. Is another almighty FA Cup shock on the cards? We will find out either way over the next couple of hours right here on TalkSport. An early possession, easy possession for Manchester City in the opening minutes. O'Reilly to Ake, midway inside his own half of the field on this carpet-like surface at the Etihad Stadium. Pep Guardiola stands on the edge of the technical area. The City go back to goalkeeper Ortega. We're only about 20 rows of seats behind the Manchester City manager. And to his right, the Plymouth boss, Miran Muslic, only appointed in January. He says that today, going up against Guardiola is the greatest honour of his lifetime. Manchester City with Ake, left of the centre circle, and already tremendous noise from the near 8,000 travelling Green Army who are occupying 2 of the 3 tiers at the south end of the stadium. They'll need their supporters tonight, Plymouth Argyle, but as we know, Dean Ashton, they'll need a little bit more than noise from the away end to get through this tie and reach the quarter-finals.
It's going to take a monumental effort, isn't it, from Plymouth Argyle? If they thought that the Liverpool victory took it out of them, they're going to need more today at the Etihad against this Manchester City side. Well, that's a decent ball down the left.
Towards the run of Bundu, the lone striker. It'll trickle through towards Ortega, who's happy to let it drift behind for a goal kick to Manchester City, away to our left-hand side.
And he's going to play a key role, isn't he, Bundu? Up there on his own, a lonely sight, waiting for any ball that's played and cleared to try and get something of it and let his team get up the pitch. But it's going to take some effort defensively. Organisation is going to need to be absolutely perfect, you would expect, for the 90 minutes with the Manchester City bench that's waiting to pounce.
The penalty is about to be taken at the Vitality Stadium. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 1. It finished after extra time. Jake Robson will bring us at the conclusion of that shootout the result of it as soon as we have it here on Talksport. There's commentary right now, kick by kick of that shootout over on Talksport 2. And on the right-hand side for Manchester City is Bernardo Silva, deep inside the Plymouth half. Plymouth with everybody in green, back behind the ball. Plymouth with a very sturdy and physical lineup, a lot of height in the side. Manchester City work it left to Grealish, teases it back to O'Reilly, and now Nathan Ake standing in the middle of the Plymouth half. We'll see a lot of this tonight. Manchester City dominant in terms of possession and territory, and Plymouth trying to frustrate as much as they possibly can. Ake square to Vitor Rice, who we saw make his Manchester City debut in the fourth round win away at Leyton Orient, where City had to come from a goal down. But more often than not, when it comes to matches against teams from a lower division, they almost always have enough. Header away by Plegetzuelo. It's dropped to Bernardo Silva, edge of the D, De Bruyne with a square pass. Foden might nudge it to the left-hand side, and the shot driven in by Grealish, and that's blocked up into the air by Boateng for Plymouth. The first of many blocks, no doubt, to come over the course of the evening to come. The 3.5 minutes gone. Manchester City 0, Plymouth Argyle 0. And Callum Wright, the Liverpool fan who used to idolise Steven Gerrard as a boy, has helped win Plymouth a throw. And on the right-hand side, won by Sorinola, the right wing-back, and he'll take it 6 or 7 yards into Manchester City territory, Dean.
Well, it was good to see Jack Grealish just take that on straight away. It was poked his way by Foden. He didn't hesitate. I think he's become a little robotic at times, Jack Grealish, in his play. When you look at his highlight reel from Aston Villa, there was a freedom about his play. I like the fact that he took that on. Well blocked, though, by the Plymouth defence. And then they played out nicely, Plymouth. Played it in towards Bundu, received it back. They've got to try, as hard as it is, and it'll become harder with fatigue, to try and play their way through to create something.
Plegetzuelo, who started his career in the youth team at Arsenal, is tugged back by Bernardo Silva. It'll be a free kick to Plymouth Argyle, and their goalkeeper Hazard, 6'6", clean sheets this season against Brentford and Liverpool in the FA Cup. They haven't conceded a goal in this season's competition. Will come across to take it slowly. He'll trudge across. It's in the left back position, and Hazard will go long, driving the ball into the Manchester City half, up towards 6'2" Bundu, but he's caught in between two of the Manchester City defenders, Ake and Rice. And Manchester City quickly on the counter-attack, scamping over the halfway line is O'Reilly, wide left to the far side, and Jack Grealish, who turns the ball back infield to De Bruyne, 30 yards out, blocked off by Bundu. 0-0 the score. Here come Manchester City with Lewis, working it wide to Bernardo Silva. Good tempo in the early possession for Manchester City here, as the ball is laid square to Ake, midway inside the Plymouth Argyle half. Plymouth defending the edge of the 18-yard box at the moment. Grealish on the outside, crosses in the dead ball line, well blocked off by Sorinola, who, like many in the Plymouth ranks, was outstanding against Liverpool in that famous fourth round win at Home Park. Foden with his back to goal, lays it off to Gundogan, twisting and turning on the edge of the penalty area, and then his pass to the left is overhit. De Bruyne can't keep it in play. Guardiola with some energetic and frenzied hand signals from the near side as the ball goes out of play for a goal kick, and the cheers from the masses, the Green Army, the Plymouth Argyle supporters away to the right. It's a goal kick and it's 0-0.
Well, a bit like many this evening in the bars of Manchester, we'll see plenty of it. The shuffle on the dance floor. You need to be the same as a defender if you're in that Plymouth back line, constantly shuffling right to left. Communication, because of the way that they switch it so quickly and they move the ball, Manchester City, that defensive unit has to really shuffle across all as one to make sure you do not allow one gap to open up, because that's when they're so good and they just find the pass.
We know that Aston Villa are into the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. Crystal Palace and Preston North End, who beat Burnley 3-0 likewise. You heard Crystal Palace 3, Millwall 1 early today on Talksport. Bournemouth against Wolves, penalties in progress right now, live on Talksport 2. And we'll give you the result of the penalty kicks as soon as we have it. And then 2 more commentaries tomorrow for you from the FA Cup on Talksport, as Bundo is flagged offside. Newcastle against Brighton at 1:45. And at 4:30, live and exclusive with us, it is Manchester United against Fulham. You cannot hear that game anywhere else on national radio. It is followed by the draw for the quarter-finals. And then Monday night, Nottingham Forest against Ipswich, again live on Talksport to complete the 5th round. The ball is on the halfway line with Vitor Rice, and Manchester City, even though the holders Manchester United are still in the competition, for the moment anyway, the City will be big favourites to go on and win the FA Cup for a 3rd time under Guardiola.
Oh, it's a magnificent chance for them, isn't it? With the teams left in the competition. And again, it's why he takes all of these competitions so seriously. He sees the importance in that winning mentality.
Quite a quiet start to the game so far. Plymouth Argyle will be delighted about that. We're in the 8th minute. Manchester City 0, Plymouth 0. All City in terms of possession, as you'd expect, but they haven't yet had a shot on goal. De Bruyne has steered the ball square about 20 yards to his right. Vitor Rice out to the near side of Bernardo Silva. A lot of praise for Vitor Rice from Pep Guardiola. Coming into the game, City work the ball to the left-hand side. They're on the attack here, Manchester City, as the ball is played back to O'Reilly. Plymouth holding firm at the moment. Let's go to the Vitality. Winning penalty perhaps coming up, Jake Robson.
It was, but he's missed it, Matt Doherty. He's dragged it wide. Howson missed before. Matt Doherty's now missed. Bournemouth need to score this to go to sudden death. You'll come back to me in a bit.
So penalties continue. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 1. It finished after extra time. Mateus Cunha sent off very late on an extra time there. Plymouth holding firm at the Etihad, but it's 0-0. Whipped in by De Bruyne, overhit the cross right-footed, and again more ironic cheers as that drifts harmlessly behind for a goal kick. Wearing the captain's armband today, De Bruyne. Since he made his debut in this competition, nobody has scored more, or nobody's been involved in more FA Cup goals. He has set up 17 in his time and scored 9, Kevin De Bruyne, including the winner away at Leyton Orient in round 4. Kevin and the club will decide on his future, Pep Guardiola said earlier this week.
I think he deserves that right, that's for sure, as we are ticking towards the 10-minute mark. And if you're a Plymouth player, you're thinking, okay, we can handle this at the moment. Plenty of possession, an overhit cross from De Bruyne, a blocked shot from Grealish. Other than that, they've not really entered the Plymouth penalty area.
The former England striker scored in an FA Cup final before. Dean Ashton alongside me here on Talksport at the Etihad on what is quite a mild night here in Manchester. And 0-0 it remains, and relatively a slow pace to the game at the moment. Manchester City with O'Reilly calmly back to Ake, and they'll go backwards and sideways, but Plymouth will allow them to do that. Plymouth, the championship strugglers in the relegation zone. City 20 points off the Premier League leaders Liverpool, who are the runaway leaders of course. O'Reilly for Manchester City. Back to Ake, just forward of the centre circle. So Plymouth, when they don't have possession, it's effectively a 5-4-1, with even Bundu, the central striker, back behind the ball. O'Reilly again for Manchester City. He'll play the ball forwards now. Simple 2-yard ball to Foden. Works it out to the left, and De Bruyne steers it back in field. Foden with a good touch. Gets it back from Grealish and then tried to thread the ball square to the edge of the 6-yard box. It's a corner. Meanwhile, let's go back to the Vitality. Is it all over there, Jake Robson?
Sinistera steps up to win it for Bournemouth, and he does! He slams it in! Traore missed for the visitors, and upstep Luis Sinistera, second-half substitute. Bournemouth progressed to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup for just the 3rd time in their history. It finished 1-1 after extra time, and now Bournemouth have gone through on penalties by 5-4.
Thank you, Jake. So Bournemouth safely through just into the quarter-finals. What a great moment for Andoni Iraola and everybody at AFC Bournemouth. Will Manchester City or Plymouth Argyle join them? City have won a second corner in quick succession after the initial corner was taken short. Grealish's shot was blocked. No test for Conor Hazard in the Plymouth goal yet. Grealish at a very tight angle, left-hand side. Pulled back to Foden, low shot, and he's dragged it wide. Took a deflection on its way through. It's a third Manchester City corner.
Well, it's really well worked, isn't it, into Grealish and back out again, and then fizzed in towards the edge of the box where Phil Foden was completely free. Cannot happen against a team like Manchester City. You've got to spot that, but good block.
Corner taken short. McAtee to Foden, and now McAtee delivers with a great reverse ball from the corner of the box, headed back across goal. Manchester City wants a penalty. Vehemently protesting is Nathan Ake, as are several of his teammates, after the ball was hoisted deep to the back post, and the on-field referee Craig Pawson's initial decision was to give a corner. It came off Pleguezuelo, who is looking rather sheepish, as Bernardo Silva headed it back across, and Pleguezuelo's arm was outstretched. It hit his arm, but the decision for now is corner, Dean Ashton, 0-0.
And I think it should be. Yes, it's gone over his head, and as he's turned, his arm is slightly out, but then it comes back in towards his body, naturally, as it would do when you're in the air as that and you're looking to then land.
Corner whipped into the near post by De Bruyne, and a header over the top by Gundogan. Corner of the 6-yard box, nobody anywhere near him, and set pieces with the height that Plymouth have got in the side, you feel should be a strength for them, but they certainly didn't look it there. Katic nowhere near Gundogan, who maybe should have hit the target.
I mean, he's made a career out of it, hasn't he? Gundogan, being a ghost almost in the penalty area. Just made his way from near the goalkeeper into that near post area. Brilliant delivery from De Bruyne, flat and with pace. He's just got to flick it towards goal off his forehead. Gets too much on it and over the top.
Just over 50,000 in the crowd tonight at the Etihad Stadium. 50,044. 7,800 from Plymouth Argyle. Or better, the former Manchester City youth player has given it away to Gundogan, who tears beyond three in dark green. Steers the ball square to the left, and De Bruyne, who had to reach behind him for control, did really well. Then nudges it wide to the right, and McAtee slightly overhit, but McAtee will retrieve it, keep it in play, plays it across to De Bruyne. This is where Manchester City, of course, will really threaten Plymouth in particular when they're attacking at them with great pace. And Ortega so far has been a total spectator in the first 14 minutes. In terms of territorial dominance, Manchester City have played almost exclusively in the final third, and Plymouth have been sat on the edge of their own 18-yard box, the edge of their own 6-yard box at times, as Lewis tries to play it to De Bruyne. Then McAtee's shot from a long way out is charged down. Grealish goes down 1 yard from the edge of the box. Sorinola was the player making the challenge, nothing given by the referee. Sorinola hopefully over the halfway line towards Bundu. Ake there to roll it back to Ortega, and Manchester City will build again. It's Manchester City 0, Plymouth 0 on a massive day in the FA Cup, live across the Talksport network. More to come tomorrow and Monday. It's a competition which has resonance all over the world, including with our listeners on Sirius XM-FC in the United States and Canada. Hello to you, or good afternoon, just about perhaps. Bernardo Silva down on the right-hand side for Manchester City. Gets to the dead ball line, whips in the high cross, all the way to the back post. Nobody's marking Grealish. Lays it back to McAtee, who lofts it over the top. And that was a little wasteful from Manchester City. It stays 0-0.
But they did well in covering the penalty area, Manchester City. So the first cross from Bernardo Silva was overhit, but Grealish made sure he was in the box at that far post, and then just flicking it towards McAtee. Tried to be clever with a little reversed volley, cushioned up and over Hazard, and again just a little bit too much on it and over the top.
St Mirren 0, Celtic 1 is the latest score in the 5:30 kickoff in the Scottish Premiership. That after Rangers were beaten at Ibrox today, 2-1 by Motherwell. So Celtic, that's a title procession in Scotland for sure. They will go 16 points clear if they win tonight. In the Championship early today, Leeds 1, West Brom 1, live on Talksport 2. Leeds are still top, but their lead cut to just 3 points after Sheffield United won at QPR in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Birmingham well clear at the top of League One after a 1-0 victory over Wickham in second place. The ball is thundered high and long by the Plymouth goalkeeper Hazard, up towards Bundu, trying to pluck it out of the air. Gundogan knocks it over halfway for Manchester City. Grealish can't retrieve it. Sorinola back to his goalkeeper again. But there's a good focus and good determination about Manchester City so far. I mean, they put 8 past Salford of League Two in the third round earlier this season. Had to work a lot harder against Leyton Orient. Remember, they were a goal down at half-time in East London, but coming from behind to win that 2-1. And Manchester City last failed to beat a lower league side in an FA Cup tie in 2017-18 when they lost away at Wigan Athletic.
Well, of course, this is positive so far from Plymouth defensively. And look, there's no need to apologise for the way they've sat back and defended. I watched Real Madrid here last season come and just sit and counter-attack against Manchester City. You've got to recognise the strengths that they have. But as I talked about before the game, that lack of confidence from some of these players that have started the game in attacking areas, trying to keep them outside of the area.
Good turn by McAtee, driving up the inside right for Manchester City, lays it across to Gundogan, who's forced to go back to the halfway line, and Vitor Reis, only 19 years of age, the Brazilian. Now Gundogan steering the ball out to De Bruyne. Further wide on the left-hand side is Grealish, taking on Sorinola. Back to De Bruyne, lets it run across his body. Steers the ball square to the right-hand side. Bernardo Silva with a left-footed reverse ball. Gundogan's downward header is saved by Hazard, who holds on to the ball to his left-hand side. Good handling from the Plymouth Argyle goalkeeper. That's the first time he's been seriously tested. 18 minutes into the fifth round tie. Manchester City 0, Plymouth Argyle 0, and here's Dean Ashton.
Yeah, Gundogan the ghost again. I watched him. He started the move. He played it out to the left. He then just drifted and carried on his merry way right into the penalty area and timed it perfectly just to dart across the defender. Just on the 6-yard line. Lovely little curled ball in from Bernardo Silva from the right-hand side. Glance towards goal, really well handled by Hazard down to his left-hand side. But he just drifts in unmarked, Gundogan. He's been so good at it throughout his career.
Not easy for the big goalkeeper Hazard to plunge to his left-hand side in the way that he did. He was excellent against Liverpool in round 4, though what was characteristic of the Plymouth performance, of course, against Liverpool, albeit an under-strength Liverpool, was how they limited them to relatively few serious efforts on goal until the very latter stages of the game. And Manchester City, of course, with home advantage and a very, very strong squad. They have an extraordinary bench, Manchester City, should they need it. Haaland, Ederson, Nunes, Marmoush, Gonzalez, Doku, Diaz, Savinho and Gvardiol. Doesn't bear thinking about for Plymouth Argyle, but it is 0-0. Reverse ball, Grealish into the area. De Bruyne back across, well blocked off of the near post. Plegetsuelo was in the way again. Plymouth's number 5, and Manchester City now have reached 5 corners for the night, just over 19 minutes in.
Yeah, difficult to defend against when it's a reverse no-look pass from Grealish to De Bruyne.
Corner taken short to Grealish, works it into the path of McAtee from the angle, tries to shoot, and between them Sorinola and Boateng, the 2 in green, come across to make the intervention. It's Malachi Boateng's first start for Plymouth Argyle, the former Crystal Palace youngster who'd been playing football north of the border with Hearts. Another corner to Manchester City. Attack v defence so far, but Plymouth have protected their goalkeeper pretty well. 0-0 on Talksport. De Bruyne drifts in the corner, floated high to the back post. Ake underneath it rises. That's an easy catch for Hazard. I don't know if I'd call that a save, Dean. He had to be there, I suppose.
I thought that was just practice for Hazard, that one, like he would do with his goalkeeping coach. It was actually decent defending. I think it was Garby that was just putting the pressure on Ake's header, which meant he couldn't power it downwards.
Talaviero with his hair in a ponytail, the giant Plymouth centre-half, a new signing alongside Nikola Katic, and that has helped spur them on defensively and spur them on to some good results of late under Miron Muslic in the Championship, but they're still very much in the relegation zone. There was a big win for Luton today at home to Portsmouth. Luton's first victory under Matt Bloomfield, lifting them off the top and off the bottom rather, and dropping Plymouth a place in the process. Plymouth away at Hull City on Tuesday, Miron Muslic was saying in the build-up to this game, he hasn't just got half an eye on that whole game, he's got both eyes on it. There's no pressure on Plymouth today. 0-0 against Manchester City. Live in the FA Cup, St Mirren 1, Celtic 1 is the latest score. Equaliser for St Mirren. Manchester City look to go right down the middle to Foden, who started in that false 9 role. Plymouth win it back, and now Bundu over the halfway line. Sorinola in support, out to the right-hand side. He's midway to the Manchester City half. Forward to Bundu now, down by the corner flag, takes on Nathan Ake, and he's won a throw. If they can get themselves corners and free kicks, Plymouth Argyle, that might be an opportunity to threaten. They will have a long throw here as Telovierov and Katic make their way forward from the back.
Yeah, Pegazuelo has gone over to that far right-hand side for the long throw. And you would expect them to be threatening from set plays with the height they have in the team.
Djabi, Telovierov, Katic and Bundu all there. Long throw into the penalty area towards the near post on the far side, headed away. Flick further clear by Foden, that was an important interception, otherwise it might have dropped nicely for Nathaniel Ogbeta. Local, born in Salford, the Plymouth Argyle left wing-back comes across to the near side of the field to take a throw. In fact, he's going to leave it for Pleguezuelo again. And you can hear the noise perhaps of the Plymouth Argyle supporters. Lots of dark green away to the right-hand side. Plymouth playing from right to left in the first half towards the north stand, which the new tier is still under construction. Long throw into the near post again, headed away by Ilkay Gundogan this time for Manchester City. Callum Wright tries to bring it down for Plymouth. He's outmuscled by Bernardo Silva, who smuggles the ball upfield, not very far. Pleguezuelo keeps the move going. Now Ogbeta inside left channel, works it further wide to Wright, who jinks in field. Bundu little flick, back to Wright in the area, bursts into the box, cleared away by Ake. De Bruyne came across in front of him with a challenge. Appeals from the Plymouth fans, not from the players on the field. And now Foden's racing down the middle of the other end. Good tackle by Pleguezuelo. Had to race back with Katic there, slides into diverted out of play. Miron Muslic, the Plymouth head coach, applauds the challenge. All of a sudden, Plymouth were very stretched. It's still 0-0.
Yeah, there was lots of noise from those Plymouth supporters behind Hazard's goal. They were a long way from it, and it definitely wasn't a penalty. It was brilliant from De Bruyne. He spotted the run of Callum Wright, made sure he stepped across at the right time to cut the ball out. Good defending from De Bruyne, and then a quick counter-attack, well dealt with by Pleguezuelo.
Midway through the first half, an intriguing start to this fifth round cup tie. Newcastle against Brighton, Manchester United against Fulham, that one live and exclusive. Both with us tomorrow on Talksport. Then we'll bring you the draw for the quarter-finals. You won't need to go anywhere else. De Bruyne out on the left-hand side, prods the ball towards the corner of the box, gets the deflection back off Telovierov, and then quickly wins Manchester City another corner of Sorinola. Well, Plymouth will be delighted on Badenstein.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think not only to have kept a clean sheet so far, but like you said, to limit Manchester City.
That said, you're right to say so far. De Bruyne delivers into the 6-yard box. Goalkeeper stays on his line, and again more good defending from Pleguezuelo, who I thought got the touch ahead of Nathan Ake to head it behind. He's now exasperated that the referee has given another corner.
Well, I think he felt as if it came off Nathan Ake last. He does really well in the end because he's not facing the ball to start with. He suddenly turns and spots the balls in his vicinity, and Nathan Ake also. Just make sure that he throws himself across.
Corner to Manchester City on the near side of the field as we look at it. Some Manchester City fans still taking their seats in front of us. Ake delivers high left-footed deep to the back post. Pleguezuelo and Ake in a wrestling match. Goal kick, says the referee. Well, he's had 2 or 3 important interventions in the game so far. Plymouth's left-sided centre-half tangling with Nathan Ake. What did you make of it, Dean?
Well, I made of it what Nathan Ake made of it, which was nothing. He didn't even get up and say anything to the referee. I think he understood that himself and Pleguezuelo were just both jostling for position and then fell to the floor. It's a good reaction from Ake, really.
Whatever happens tonight, once we're done, you can have your say on the game day phone in tonight. Live with Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. 03717 222 344 to have your say. Crystal Palace through today after beating Millwall. Preston North End into the quarter-finals. Derby victory over Burnley, and Bournemouth have beaten Wolves on penalty kicks. Live on Talksport 2 today. 5-4 on penalties after a 1-1 draw after extra time. Ogbetta's offside down the Plymouth left. We could see that. We were right level with it, just to the left of the halfway line. And it's a free kick to Manchester City. They look well set up for this sort of game. Plymouth Argyle, long spells without possession, resolute and robust defensively. That's just what they had to be away at Brentford in the third round and at home to Liverpool, most famously in round 4. Whatever happens, it's already been an incredible FA Cup campaign for Plymouth Argyle. Can they reach the quarters, though, for the first time since 2007?
I think what it shows is how a competition like this can take your mind off the league, how you can raise your games to levels you haven't been able to reach in the league.
Well, maybe you didn't even think possible. As Vitor Rice nudges the ball wide to the right for Manchester City. Bernardo Silva trying to twist Ogbetta inside out. Ogbetta does well. Stands up to the challenge and he's poked it out of play. It's a Manchester City throw. Back from Lewis to Rice again with the red and white boots on. Ake, Manchester City's number 6. Wide left to Grealish, accelerates into the penalty area. 1-2 with De Bruyne, pulls it back. Gundogan arriving, hits the post on the half volley. Left-footed, big let-off for Plymouth Argyle. There he was again. Gundogan ghosting in. Free shot left-footed. I mean, he should score.
Oh, he should. But the timing is just so unique to his career. It's one of the absolute best I've ever seen at timing those runs into the penalty area. It dropped on the half volley with his left foot. He just looked to whip it across. Hazard and the Plymouth defence absolutely frozen, waiting probably for it to hit the back of the net. It just comes clean off the inside of the post and back out.
28 minutes gone, that's as close as Manchester City have come. Sweeping effort from Gundogan against the woodwork. Plymouth have it though with Bundu. Midway into the Manchester City half, and he plays it back to Darko Giabi, who is on loan from Leeds United. Out to the right-hand side, Sorinola, and now back into Plymouth territory. Talovierov square to Katic, and the olays begin from the Plymouth Argyle fans. And no doubt, many made the trip up early yesterday and enjoyed seeing the sights in Manchester. Header away by Vitor Rice and thumped over the halfway line by Gundogan, clear for Manchester City. Pleguezuelo retreating with a header out towards the right-hand side. Bernardo Silva keeps it in play. Bit early for the Olays maybe. 29 gone and 0-0. But they're enjoying it. That's what the FA Cup is all about. Here come Manchester City down the left. O'Reilly chips the ball high into the penalty area. That is easy for Hazard to control. And the 7 times FA Cup winners, though Pep Guardiola does applaud from the near side touchline, are still yet to make the breakthrough.
Yeah, they've been sloppy, Manchester City, a couple of times. Gundogan's been the one, hasn't he, that's looked the threat when he's timed those runs into the penalty area. But if you're going to get the Olays in, get them in early, I would have said.
Well, before the goals start raining.
No, they've done a very good job so far. I'll be so pleased with this start.
They have been excellent, Plymouth Argyle, in the first half an hour. And of course, in cup ties like this, you have to ride your luck. There are going to be moments, of course there are, for Manchester City. Gundogan hitting the post, but Plymouth get away with it.
You need plenty of luck. And you usually need your goalkeeper to have one of the games of his life in these sorts of games. So far, though, it's been just good outright defending from, you would say, not a back 3, a back 9.
The whole team defending from the front. Grealish wriggling away down the inside left for Manchester City. Now De Bruyne accelerates infield, finds O'Reilly, who gets it back from De Bruyne, nudges it left to Grealish, inside the penalty area, cuts it back towards Gundogan, who was waiting on the edge of the box, but that was intercepted by right for Plymouth Argyle. Then Bundu is fouled, held the play up well, and wins Plymouth a free kick, and they will slow the game down, understandably, with every opportunity that they get. And you know what it's like, Dean, as a front man. He's very much the lone striker today, isn't he, Mustafa Bundu, and he'll know that he won't get too many touches of the ball in a game like this.
But the ones he's had so far, the very few that he's had, he's been excellent with. His touch has been good, he's been strong, he's just won his team a free kick. He's yet to have the chance to be a threat in behind. That may come, but so far you've got to still be very alert, haven't you, up there, because he's going to just watch the game effectively like we are, but he has to then be alert for that one moment when it's cleared, or that one pass out that he has to be involved.
Goalless live on Talksport at the Etihad as Plymouth thunder the ball long into Manchester City territory. Header away initially by Gundogan and then by Nico O'Reilly. Out of play for a Plymouth throw, and it's in long throw territory this. Plegetsuelo goes across to take it. It's about midway into the Manchester City half, in front of the East Stand on the far side with its 3 tiers. Lots of Manchester City fans wearing the scarves and hats today. Plegetsuelo ready to take the throw into the penalty area, initially shaped to go short. Surely he'll go long. He does. In towards Katic, who's come forward. He flicks it on. Can Talovierov reach the second ball? Ake gets in front of him down by the dead ball line and hooks it high up into the sky and away from danger. Back to the edge of the penalty area where Bundu is waiting. And now Plymouth have it with Ogbeta. Good spurt of territory this for Plymouth Argyle. And possession. Ogbeta out on the left-hand side. Square ball to Boateng. Just inside the Manchester City half. And Ogbeta will go all the way back to Katic. We've had over half an hour, and Connor Hazard has had one simple save to make in the game so far. Another high long ball downfield towards Bundu, who held it up in front of Nathan Ake, and he's played it back to Katic again. Katic to Plegetsuelo, who races forward into opposition territory. Bundu between the lines, out to the right-hand side, and Sorinola raining down the far side of the field. Deflected cross, came off O'Reilly. Another Plymouth Argyle throw right by the corner flag. That's really encouraging for the Championship team.
And you've got to remember that you're still an elite player yourself. These players are in the Championship. And so when the ball does come into you, can you be bright? Can you combine? They did it really well there. Bundu again, excellent. Ball out wide to Sorinola to win another throw-in. And Plegetsuelo has trotted over to that far side again.
St Mirren 1, Celtic 2. Celtic back in front. Plegetsuelo, long throw down the right-hand side. Katic leaps, won the initial header, but Gundogan is there to pick up the second ball and scoop it away for Manchester City, who had everybody back in sky blue to defend that long throw for Plymouth. Quite quiet in the stands today. You can understand that from the Manchester City supporters. Of course, there is probably an expectation among most of them that this will be a routine win, but Plymouth have been anything but routine in the FA Cup so far this season, as the ball goes all the way through to Hazard again. And actually, maybe there were 1 or 2 murmurs of frustration there for the home fans.
I was just going to say that, wasn't it? It was just a ball punted forwards from Bernardo Silva. Pep Guardiola sort of turned his back, and the crowd just gave a little collective groan. And that is what you want if you're Plymouth. You want that pressure to get on the players.
A tremendous experience in the City side for the most part. Grealish early ball into the box towards McAtee, and then a back header by Katic after the ball squirmed up. There was a slight challenge from both Katic and Plegetsuelo, and it spun high up into the air, and that allowed Katic to nod it back to his goalkeeper. It was a bit unorthodox, but it worked. 0-0.
Well, it was a really early decision for Plegetsuelo to go sliding in the outside of the foot. Cross from Grealish. Plegetsuelo read it early, went sliding in. The fact that McAtee went over the top of him was irrelevant because he timed it brilliantly.
Here is Rico Lewis in the right back position for Manchester City. His 35th appearance of the season so far for Lewis. Played a lot of football. Pep Guardiola was saying this week how some of Manchester City's golden oldies will still very much have their part to play next season too, even despite the reshaping of the squad that's somewhat taken place as the season has gone on. Clearance by Katic for Plymouth, not very far, only as far as Grealish, midway into the Plymouth half. Early ball to Foden, an impudent flick to the feet of McAtee. Now Gundogan steers the ball wide to Rico Lewis, little dummy from McAtee. No way through though beyond Plegetsuelo, and Plymouth deal with it again. Very resolute so far, and more ironic cheers, which are getting louder and more excitable the longer this first half goes on from the away supporters as their team win a throw. We are 9 minutes plus added time away from the end of the first half on FA Cup Game Day Live on Talksport with Carling, the official beer partner of the Emirates FA Cup 18+. Please drink responsibly. And it remains Manchester City 0, Plymouth Argyle 0. As Giabi steers the ball to the right-hand side. Good ball square to Sorinola. Middle of the Manchester City half. Early ball inside right. Right will cross along the edge of the 6-yard box. Nobody there to apply the touch. Barley Mumba there for Plymouth. Back to Ogbeta. Left corner of the penalty area. Turning, trying to turn away from Bernardo Silva. Mumba steers it back to the edge of the D. Giabi races out to the left-hand side. Now Ogbeta steers the ball in, and it's cleared away by a sliding Vitor Rice in front of his goalkeeper. Slightly nervy moment there for Manchester City. They're going to have to defend a corner for the first time tonight.
Dare I say they're gaining in a little bit of confidence. Plymouth, it was lovely play. It was patient out on this left-hand side. Who cycled it back into the midfield and then back out again and found the spare man, Ogbeta, who tried to put that in early at the near post. Actually, Ortega, I'm sure, would have just liked to have collected that, but Vitor Rice came across and put it out for a corner.
Matthew Sorinola will deliver the corner, right-footed, dink to the far post. Talovierov! He's headed it in! Incredible! Talovierov with a giant leap to head beyond Ortega, and those Green Army giant killers are at it again! This is the FA Cup at its very, very best. Plymouth Argyle, relegation fodder in the Championship, lead away at mighty Manchester City by 1-0.
Don't ever turn your back on the FA Cup, because every single time and every single season it will surprise you. Talovierov gets up so high. It's a towering header. It's a decent delivery from Sorinola from the corner on the 6-yard line, but he is up. He is hanging there waiting, and he just turns his head and his ponytail and flicks it towards the back post, and it's just inside the inside side netting. A beautifully guided header. Plymouth are 1-0 ahead.
And the 7,800 on their feet to salute that goal. It was at the other end of the ground, but you could hear the roar from the Plymouth fans all the way to Devon and back. 1-0 to Plymouth at Manchester City. Extraordinary. They've beaten Brentford. They've beaten Liverpool. Will it be the FA Cup hat-trick? There's a long way to go. 6 minutes plus added time at the end of the first half. But Plymouth Argyle are daring to dream, and Talovierov lit magnificently to thunder in the header. Yet again, the magic of this competition laid bare for everybody to see and hear. Manchester City have work to do. Kevin De Bruyne down by the dead ball line, plays it back now to the feet of O'Reilly. And now the Manchester City frustrations may start to grow. Ake, forward to Foden, 25 yards out. Good tackle, blocked up by Giabi. No way through, beyond the green wall for the moment. Bundu has held the player on the halfway line, but he can't find right on the underlap. You called it, Dean Ashton, just before the corner was taken, gaining in confidence, gaining ground in the game, and now they've gained the lead, Plymouth. 1-0 to Plymouth, live on Talksport. Bernardo Silva out on the right for Manchester City. Whips in the cross, high to the back post. De Bruyne has brought it down. Angle against him, tries a cross, cleared by Sorinola, who will get the credit for the assist with the goal, with a lovely dink corner. Out on the right-hand side is Bernardo Silva for Manchester City again. Another cross, headed behind by Plegazuelo, corner.
Well, you can really see how animated Miran Muzlic is. Just knowing his players, they can't let it get to them. They can't get too excitable. They have to remember discipline once again in their defending.
Corner to Manchester City, delivered in by Foden. Left-footed in, swinging it, headed behind. Vitor Rice, I think it was, at the near post with the touch. And the ball stays out, and Plymouth retain their 1-0 advantage. We're in the 41st minute. Manchester City 0, Plymouth Argyle 1. in the 5th round of the FA Cup, live on Talksport. The shock is on, and here's Dean Ashton.
He's just got Vitor Rice, the ball in from Foden, great pace on it. He was right in line with the front post on the 6-yard line. He's just got to turn and guide that header in the way that Talksport did for Plymouth. Can't quite do it. Comes too straight at it, and it just fires behind the goal rather than glancing.
Kevin De Bruyne is breaking down the middle now. He's nudged it to the right-hand side. McAtee blocked off by Pleguezuelo. Every Plymouth player seems to have grown an inch taller, can sprint a yard faster, particularly since that Talksport header. Maxim Talksport, who only joined the club in the winter transfer window. He's the club record signing. That's an historic moment for Plymouth Argyle to head them in front. But again, there is a long way to go and a lot of work still for Plymouth to do. Bali Mumba over the halfway line with a pass, offside against Bundu, just inside Manchester City territory, and they will get a free kick. Ortega, a spectator for the whole of the game so far, including for that Talksport header.
Yeah, not a lot he could have done unless he was deciding to come for that corner, which I don't think would have been advisable with the pace on the ball. Nothing he could do. So well guided.
Manchester City on the attack. Grealish inside left channel, making his way to the dead ball line, chipping in the cross, diving header away by Giavi, hit by De Bruyne on the half volley, having chested it down. That took a deflection. It'll be a corner to Manchester City. So that is 10 corners, and we haven't yet had the end of the first half for Manchester City, but they're 1-0 down. Plymouth's only corner, delivered in by Sorinola and headed in by Talksport. Foden with the delivery for Manchester City, and Nathan Ake went in at the near post. Another deflection on it, yet another deflection, but the last touch was off Ake, and this time the referee says goal kick.
Well, it's been a useful delivery, hasn't it, from corners for Manchester City. That near post whipped corner, one from the left and now two from the right. Ake thought he was about to get there and head it in. It was brilliant defending from Katic to get himself across and just bump his torso into Ake's.
Clearance upfield by Hazard from the goal kick, flicked by Bundu downfield. Mumba back to Giabi now, just inside the Manchester City half. Now Pleguezuelo. Not a single Plymouth player has put a foot wrong in the first half so far. 90 seconds of normal time remaining at the end of the first period on Talksport. Manchester City a goal down. Touched by De Bruyne, back to Grealish, back to De Bruyne, left-handed side, and it's rattled it across the face of goal. And there must have been a touch from Hazard, the goalkeeper, to deflect that behind and away for yet another corner.
Oh, you know there was, because he got up and just gave a massive fist pump into the air, because it's a terrific save. Lovely combination between De Bruyne and Grealish. Low and to the goalkeeper's left, he gets down brilliantly with a firm finger to flick it behind.
Foden's in swinging delivery in front of the Plymouth fans, all the way to the back post, headed away by Pleguezuelo. How much added time will we have, I wonder, at the end of the first period? We're into the final minute of normal time in the latter stages of the first half here on Talksport. Plymouth 1-0 in front. Pep Guardiola turns back towards the dugout on the near side of the field. He was having a go at a ball boy a couple of minutes ago for not releasing the ball quick enough and getting momentum back for Manchester City. This dreadful season for Manchester City, remember, of course, as McAtee is clipped, fouled by Ogbeta, free kick to City about 5 yards from the right corner of the penalty area.
Yeah, it was just quick feet from McAtee when the ball came across. Ogbeta just thought he could poke it away. McAtee just shifted the ball to the left-hand side with the outside of his foot, and it's wide, but it's close enough to the 18-yard box to possibly whip this in towards the near post. So the goalkeeper will have to get his angle spot on.
A minute of added time remaining at the end of the first half. Manchester City with a free kick, 5 yards from the corner of the box. Remember, they have a wealth, an embarrassment of riches to call upon off the bench should they need them, Manchester City, and they may need them. 1-0 down. De Bruyne and Foden over the free kick. It'll be left to De Bruyne to deliver. Right-footed header in. 1-1. And ghosting in at the near post to level it for Manchester City was O'Reilly. And the young man, born in Manchester, scores again in the FA Cup, having also netted in round 3 against Salford. And Plymouth Argyle couldn't quite hold out until half-time. It's a set-piece goal scored by Manchester City this time. Nico O'Reilly with it. And it's Manchester City 1, Plymouth Argyle 1.
Well, all it takes is for you to get just quarter of a yard when the ball is played in with such pace by De Bruyne. If you can just get yourself ahead of your defender, which O'Reilly does brilliantly, and then he just guides it because the pace is there and the pace is too much for Hazard. He gets a hand to it, but it's too quick, it's too powerful for him to keep out of the net. But what a body blow, a massive body blow for Plymouth to concede so late in the half.
The first goal that Plymouth have conceded in this year's FA Cup. And there's an offside flag up on the far side of the field, a free kick to Manchester City, and that is half-time. And could that equaliser ultimately prove decisive? Because Plymouth Argyle were dreaming of the quarter-finals when Maxim Talovierov headed them in front from Matthew Soronola's corner 38 minutes in. It was a picture-book goal, the kind of goal that Plymouth Argyle supporters were dreaming about last night. But Manchester City, right at the end of the first half, equalised to a header of their own. Nico O'Reilly with his second Manchester City goal, the teenager. And now, with all the riches they have on the bench, you'd expect Manchester City to have too much from here. Manchester City 1, Plymouth Argyle 1.
Whoa, 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 Joe Shannon. Come on now. Come on. Believe. This is the FA Cup, my friend. How can you write them off after that first half? They're level away at Manchester City at the break, and they are very much in this game. This is the magic of the FA Cup. You know, they went ahead, and you could feel it coursing through your veins. If they do it again, we'll be right back on for one of the biggest shocks in FA Cup history. And listen, if you asked Miran Muslic coming into this game, level at half-time, would you take it? Absolutely. Dean Ashton, come on. You got to be with me on this one. It's never going to be perfect for any side, a Premier League side, going away to Manchester City. But they've had the slices of luck, I think, that they need so far. We saw the ball ricochet back off the post, but they've also brought the right character, the right application into this game, and that, who knows, could carry them on to something very special.
Well, look, until the goal, everything had gone right in the way I'm sure the manager would have hoped for. You know, defended properly, you know, given Manchester City very, very little, hoping that they're having an off day, which they did. A little bit of luck with it coming off the post. Your goalkeeper makes a top save, and you get yourself a goal. It was all there. It was all in the FA Cup script if you wanted the giant killing. And then, right at the last few seconds of the half, you switch off and it changes everything. It does. It changes everything in the dressing room, because as positive as you're talking about before the game, if you went in at half-time level, that is a blow. It really is a blow for them.
Yeah, very noticeable the way they conceded the equaliser for Nico O'Reilly. That Ogbeta, his job was just to protect that near post area. You see every player in the Plymouth defence drop off, and he's just a second too late moving his feet, and the ball goes right past him and onto the head of Nico O'Reilly. It was a very well taken equaliser, but no less than Manchester City deserved.
Yeah, I mean, City have been okay. You know, you can still see the scarring almost with some of the players that they're not there. They're not the players that they've shown the levels that they can reach, whether that's injuries or being out of form or lack of match play. They're not quite there, are they? And you can sense that. But they've been so dominant, obviously, with the ball. A couple of chances created. Gundogan being the most threatening. But they've been nowhere near where you would expect against a team like Plymouth, who have shipped 68 goals in the Championship campaign so far, and all the positives are with Plymouth from that half.
Special moment when Plymouth took the lead through Maxim Talovierov. He's been speaking in interviews this week about his home country of Ukraine. We know that's dominated headlines this week, but there is something very real to it. He says every day wakes up, sees videos and messages about rockets, missiles, bombs in Ukraine, and he's texting his family every day asking them if they're okay. That's his life every morning at the moment. I guess preferable to what's actually going on back in his home nation. But for him, having moved to Plymouth in January, gets this incredible moment for himself personally, but also for his team.
Of course, yeah, we can't even imagine what that must be like for him, his family, of course his country. And the best thing for him, naturally, to take his mind off those situations is football. It's what's so great about the sport. And you can tell that in his performance, it's what it's all about for him. And the goal, I mean, the way he just kind of hung there for so long, and then the guided header was excellent. And what a moment, both for him and the team. And you talked about that sense of the FA Cup and what this competition can do, and why so many from around the world listen and watch to this competition because of moments like that. And you think all of a sudden, because before the game you're thinking there's no chance, all of a sudden you're thinking, well, hang on, this could now happen. It just, again, for whatever reason, that lack of concentration from the Plymouth side to let Manchester City in there at the end.
As I said to you before the game, so you're saying there's a chance, there very much is still a chance for Plymouth Argyle to cause another huge FA Cup upset. They're all level at the break. They took the lead. It was a bit of a dagger blow just before half-time as Manchester City equalised, but it is all very much still to play for in the second half here on Talksport. At the break at the Etihad Stadium, it is Manchester City 1, Plymouth Argyle 1.
The Emirates FA Cup, live on Talksport with Carly.
What a driver, what a goal! Oh, yes!
The official beer partner of the Emirates FA Cup. 18 plus, always drink responsibly. Emirates FA Cup, live on Talksport with Carly.
What a driver, what a goal! Oh, yes!
The official beer partner of the Emirates FA Cup. 18 plus, always drink responsibly.
Lift, right, lift. Company, pay attention. You ought to ball off for another March Talksport Bet broadcast boost of major proportions. Man United versus Fulham. United to win, both teams to score and over 1.5 Fulham cards. Current price 5-1. Broadcast boosted price 6-1. For this another great March in order odds, visit TalksportBet.com. Mad March broadcaster, bring it on bookie. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus gambleaware.org. Company, halt.
Charlie had just hired Joe. He was great. Seemed like he knew his stuff. So Charlie left him alone for 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes, Joe managed to burst the main pipe and flood the entire ground floor. Workmates, they're a bit like switching your bank account for your business. You don't want any surprises. That's why we guarantee there won't be any when you switch with the current account switch service. Maybe it's time to switch.
When it comes to sports betting, it's important to cool off and play safe. Set deposit limits to control your spending. Set timeouts when you need a break. And set reality checks to know how long you've been playing. Showtime ain't always go time. Stay safe, players, at BetMGM.
18 plus, please gamble responsibly. The Skoda Kamiq SE Edition, our agile city SUV, now with upgraded features as standard. Cruise control, standard. Keyless start, standard. Dual zone climate control, standard. Electric windows, folding mirrors, adjustable front seats with lumbar support, standard, standard, standard. The Skoda Kamiq SE Edition with 0% APR on Solutions PCP. There's standard and there's standard. Visit your local Skoda retailer today. Indemnities may be required. Maximum 24-month term. Skoda Finance.
At William Hill Vegas, we're bursting with entertainment. Introducing V-Play, where revealing rewards couldn't be easier. Play your usual slots and table games featuring the V-Play icon. And when the V-Play bar's full, you're ready to spin the wheel for cash prizes. V-Play, only at William Hill Vegas. Bursting with entertainment. For GBP online accounts, use cash balance to play. Chance to spin and win prizes from £30 to £1,000 randomly awarded. Spin and claim within 7 days. T&Cs apply. 18 plus, gamble away.
At Checkatrade, you'll find reputable tradespeople ready to get to work on your home improvement jobs, big and small. But we know all you're going to remember about this ad is... It's great that it sticks in your mind. Just don't forget about the reputable tradespeople ready to get to work on jobs, big and small bit. You're still thinking about... Aren't you? But we really do have reputable tradespeople ready to... Oh, forget it. Download the app or visit...
Yes! I just can't believe it.
This time tomorrow, you could be a millionaire. Get your lotto ticket for tonight's draw. The National Lottery. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 18 or over.
Game day.
The rousing radio broadcast.
FA Cup. Game day live.
On Talksport.
Well, another fantastic FA Cup tie ensuing in front of our eyes at the break. Plymouth Argyle in the relegation zone in the Championship are level with Manchester City at the Etihad. Nico O'Reilly equalising on the stroke of half-time for Manchester City, and that was after Argyle took the lead. Great scenes for their Maxim Talavierev getting the header from a set piece to put them in front. Remember, they put Liverpool out in the last round, Brentford in the round before that. Could they make it a fantastic trio of victories in the best cup competition in the world? Let's take a look at the halftime highlights in partnership with Carling.
Emirates FA Cup halftime highlights on Talksport with Carling. Brilliantly refreshing from the first sip to the last. 18 plus. Always drink responsibly.
They've already beaten Brentford. They've already beaten Liverpool. Can Plymouth Argyle make it the most memorable FA Cup hat-trick here in Manchester? Grealish at a very tight angle, left-hand side, pulled back to Foden, low shot, and he's dragged it wide. Bernardo Silva with a left-footed reverse ball. Gundogan's downward header is saved by Hazard. De Bruyne pulls it back. Gundogan arriving, hits the post on the half volley, left-footed. Big let-off for Plymouth Argyle. There he was again. Gundogan ghosting in. Free shot left-footed. I mean, he should score. Over the free kick, it'll be left to De Bruyne to deliver. Right-footed header in. 1-1. And ghosting in at the near post to level it for Manchester City was O'Reilly. And the young man, born in Manchester, scores again in the FA Cup.
All still to play for in the second half, coming up very, very shortly indeed. But that was the first half and how it sounded on Talksport, all thanks to Carling.
Emirates FA Cup halftime highlights on Talksport with Carling, the official beer partner of the Emirates FA Cup. 18 plus, always drink responsibly.
Elsewhere in the FA Cup today, finished Bournemouth 1, Wolves 1 on Talksport 2, went all the way through to extra time and penalties, and it was Bournemouth who came out as winners. Luis Sinisterra with the vital penalty kick. In fact, it went to stoppage time, if you like, in the penalty shootout as well. Excuse me. What I did want to tell you about is Mateus Cunha's straight red card that came at the end of extra time, which could have big ramifications for Wolves in terms of their bid to stay in the Premier League. Some massive games coming up for them. He could be missing for 3 or 4 of them. Earlier on, we brought you here on Talksport. Crystal Palace 3, Millwall 1. Palace through to the last 8. The game, though, marred by an injury to Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's been speaking on social media. He's in good spirits, but it was a very gruesome looking challenge. Liam Roberts, the goalkeeper, sent off early on in the game. Here's what his manager, Alex Neil, had to say.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting the tackle wasn't a bad one. I mean, I'm just in the press there, which really surprised me. I wasn't obviously aware, because I'm in the game, of the talking point of the tackle, and I think Steve Parish made a comment at half-time. Liam's come out, he's mistimed a challenge. If he's caught the lad and he deserved to be sent off, then that's fine. I mean, we accept that, but I'm not accepting anybody suggesting as if Liam's tried to hurt the player. I mean, we're 5 minutes into the game, we're trying to win the game, we want to try and be competitive. He's mistimed it. If he has, he's caught the lad. Obviously, I hope the lad's fine, and I hope he comes back, and we wish him the best if it is a bad injury. But for anybody to suggest as if Liam would intentionally hurt him is way off the mark for me.
Well, Jean-Philippe Mateta was treated for around 8 or so minutes on the pitch. He's reportedly due to undergo surgery on his ear. There was a gash from behind his neck. He says he will be back stronger. His chairman, Steve Parish, speaking on TV at halftime in that game, called it the most reckless challenge he had ever seen. It is not a great one at all, and I'm sure there will be plenty of conversation around it. Elsewhere, Preston beat Burnley by 3-0. They're into the last 8 as well. There's live action going on in the Scottish Premiership right now. St Mirren have just equalised for the second time, 49 minutes on the clock. St Mirren 2, Celtic 2. Earlier on, Rangers were beaten 2-1 by Motherwell at Ibrox. So not a great afternoon for Rangers fans. Celtic looking to extend their lead, which is already 16 points, even further at the top of the Scottish Premiership. Okay, let's head back to the Etihad Stadium to join Joe Shannon and Dean Ashton ahead of this second half. I just wonder, Dean, what the messages are from both managers. Miran Muslic was very complimentary in the build-up to this game about the qualities of Pep Guardiola, and frankly, who wouldn't be? Called it, one of the biggest mountains to climb. So far, they've equipped themselves very, very well indeed. How do you think he is viewing this second half and what he's saying to his players, and the same for Guardiola?
Well, I think for Muslic, I think it's a case of not just being happy with what's happened so far. Already the supporters will be incredibly proud of that first half and the fact that they took the lead. And it can be very easy to think, well, not our job is done, but ultimately what we've achieved so far. Actually, can we have the right attitude to go out again and replicate that and put in another very, very decent defensive display, try and be a threat when we can, and you just never know. They'll have that belief because of what's happened in the competition already. I think it's just about making sure that you don't let your mind drift away from the job and the organisation that they're clearly going to need in this second half, especially with the changes that can be made. Pep Guardiola, I don't think, will say much more than intensity needed, because they have such a structured way of playing that they're not suddenly going to change anything in that sense.
Manchester City had 70% possession in that first half. They had 14 shots in total. Plymouth just one, and it was the one that counted. City will hope, I'm sure, to be much more effective in front of goal in the second half. Who knows, will we get another huge shock from the Pilgrims? Could be changes at the break. I'll leave you for the second half with the former England striker Dean Ashton and Talksport's Joe Shannon.
Thank you, Hugh. And there is a change for Manchester City. Ruben Dias slotting in at centre-half in place of Nathan Ake. Dias, who made appearance number 200 for Manchester City in the previous round against Leyton Orient. So 1-1 is the score. Would you believe it? Plymouth Argyle still very much in the cup tie, but Manchester City still have time on their side, and of course, should they need it, the rest of a strong bench to call upon. Plymouth get the game back underway from left to right in the second half towards that south stand. 2 tiers of it packed with supporters of the Green Army, Plymouth Argyle fans, and they've got the ball early on with Wright down by the corner flag, and it's been tucked away out of play by Vitor Rice for a Plymouth throw right at the start of the second 45, and Pleguezuelo will come forward to take it, and forward to try and meet it comes Talovierov, who 38 minutes in headed in the goal that presented us with the real opportunity of an incredible FA Cup shock. Manchester City equalised just before the break through O'Reilly, and so that's why we are level live on Talksport. Long throw again in towards Katic, who wins the initial header, but the referee had spotted a foul, and it's a free kick to Manchester City. Ortega in goal, Lewis, Rice, Dias and O'Reilly, De Bruyne and Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Grealish and Foden behind McAtee. I'll remind you of the Manchester City bench in a moment. For Plymouth Argyle, Hazard is the goalkeeper. They're unchanged, unsurprisingly. Talovierov, Katic and Pleguezuelo are the centre-half. Sorinola and Ogbeta the wing-backs. The two in the middle are Diaby and Boateng. Mumba and Wright in support of Bundu up front, though, for the most part, the 2 former players that I mentioned in that 3, Wright and Mumba, are helping out defensively and sitting as part of a midfield 4. Grealish for Manchester City out on the near side of the left. He's steadied infield to Gundogan about 25 yards out. For most of the first half, Manchester City were camped inside the Plymouth Argyle defensive third, and really they looked like they were going to score 2 or 3 early on, but it didn't work out like that, and it's still level at 1 apiece. O'Reilly for Manchester City, back to Ruben Dias, forward of the centre circle. Still lots of empty blue seats in the stands, lots of spectators making their way back to their places. Manchester City out on the right with Foden cutting it back to the right-sided centre-half, Vitor Rice. He looks up again, 35 yards out. Gundogan's ball left to Grealish. Left corner of the penalty area. Takes on Sorinola. Drills in the low cross. It could have hit anybody and ended up in the back of the net. Fortunately for Plymouth, Mumba is there at the back post to clear. And they survive. It's 1-1, and here's Dean Ashton.
Yeah, there was a Haaland-shaped hole, wasn't there, in the penalty area there when that was flashed across from Jack Grealish. Did really well with a little step over to get away and flash it across the 6-yard box. That's normally where Haaland would be making his move.
And McAtee tried to skip round Talovierov, the goal scorer, on the outside, but powerful and elegant defending from the Ukrainian in one motion to sweep it away. And it's a throw to Plymouth Argyle in the end in their right-back position. They've only won one away game all season in any competition. That was at Brentford in round 3. And they led at Manchester City here in the 5th round of the Cup for about 7 minutes before City got that equaliser right at the very end of the first half, in first half added time. City have the ball on halfway. They have Ederson, Marmoush, Haaland, Doku, Gonzalez, Gvardiol, Savinho and Nunes on the bench. And the Plymouth Argyle substitutes, I'll give you in a moment as Manchester City come forward. Talovierov there to win it back again. Forward by Sorinola to the halfway line. Good flick by Bundu into the path of Callum Wright on halfway. He tears into the Manchester City half. Early ball to the feet of Mumba, who's held it up well. Middle of the Manchester City territory. This time Bernardo Silva back covering well. And a free kick's been given to Plymouth Argyle. In fact, I think the referee allowed play to go on as Katic goes back to his goalkeeper, Connor Hazard. One very good save in the first half from Hazard. The Plymouth subs: Grimshaw, the goalkeeper, Horton, Such, Edwards, Pukac, Al-Hajj, Beidou, Roberts and Palsson. Manchester City dominating possession early in the second half. 4 minutes into it, Grealish goes up the inside left channel towards the dead ball line. He's held it up in front of 2 Plymouth defenders, Wright and Sorinola, in the dark green shirts, black shorts and white socks. From left to right in the second half, Plymouth, and Manchester City from right to left, sky blue shirts, white shorts and dark blue socks. In the FA Cup early today, Crystal Palace 3, Millwall 1, Preston 3, Burnley 0. Bournemouth edged out Wolves on penalties after a 1-1 draw, and of course Aston Villa beat Cardiff City by 2-0 last night. Newcastle against Brighton, Manchester United against Fulham, which is live and exclusive to Talksport tomorrow afternoon, and then Nottingham Forest against Ipswich on Monday night. After the United-Fulham game, we'll bring you the quarter-final draw in full, and then next week we've got the return of European football, more Championship football on the network as well. The best way to be across it all is to download our free app, and then you can swipe between the stations as and when you need to. Manchester City with Foden edging the ball back to Bernardo Silva, races over halfway, quick ball just a yard or so further forward to McAtee, right hand side, far side, takes on Ogbeta, held up, plays it back to Ilkay Gundogan. 1-1, Gundogan from range, drives into the penalty area at pace, pulls it back, Bernardo Silva denied by the goalkeeper. And Manchester City really should have been in front. Exceptional work by Gundogan. A deft touch by Bernardo Silva. Not enough to beat Connor Hazard.
Oh, it was excellent from Gundogan. Brilliant run. Just running through midfield, right the way through the Plymouth defence down the right-hand side. Picked the right pass to cut it back to Bernardo Silva. He's just got to lift it. If he lifts it, he scores.
Foden right corner of the penalty area. Left-footed ball. It rolled along the ground, made its way into the area, cleared by Talovierov, and there was an offside, I think against McAtee, coming back from an offside position, and it's a free kick to to Plymouth Argyle. It remains 1-1, and Hazard, as I say, one excellent save in the first half, and now a good stop in the second.
Excellent, wasn't it? Just low with his knees, actually, which is why I said Bernardo Silva, who just lifts it. It's difficult because it's slightly behind Bernardo Silva, so he's trying to flick it goalwards, keeps it low and off the knees of Hazard. But again, it was Gundogan with that run into the penalty area, this time with the ball.
And just like you said in the first half, they'll need their goalkeeper to perform more heroics, Plymouth Argyle, if they're to have any chance. 1-0 winners at Brentford, 1-0 winners at home to Liverpool, level at 1-1 with Manchester City. Live on Talksport, and hello to our listeners in North America on Sirius XMFC who are enjoying the FA Cup action across this 5th round weekend. In the Championship today, the leaders Leeds 1-1 with West Brom, live on Talksport 2. Leeds 3 points clear at the top. Sheffield United in second, winning at QPR by 2-1 in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Out on the right-hand side for Manchester City is Bernardo Silva. Eases the ball back into the midfield. And O'Reilly, the goal scorer, wearing number 75, will square it infield again to Ruben Dias, who's just forward of the centre circle. Plymouth camped inside their own half at the moment. All of the play with Manchester City, right to left. It's another attack v defence drill, it feels like. No way through for Bernardo Silva, wriggling away down the right. Smuggled clear and upfield by Pleguezuelo for Plymouth. And then was that a foul on Bundu? Referee initially played the advantage, but there wasn't any great advantage because Giabi was surrounded by sky blue shirts, and he has in the end pulled it back, the referee, for a free kick to Plymouth in their left back area.
How well has he done, Bundu, as the centre forward? He's done so well to get hold of the ball, to win his team a couple of free kicks, to try and combine when the ball's come into him. He's been excellent in this game, considering how little he is allowed to get involved.
The former FA Cup finalist Dean Ashton with us on Talksport commentary tonight. Former England striker Conor Hazard floats the ball high downfield for Plymouth, headed away from the edge of the penalty area by Vitor Rice of Manchester City. St Mirren 2, Celtic 2, a latest score in the late kick-off in the Scottish Premiership. Rangers beaten today by Motherwell by 2-1. Remember, the game day phone-in is with us on Talksport once we're done here tonight with Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. You can have your say on the afternoon's football by calling 03717 223344, and we'll have more of your reaction as well, and the manager and player reaction to the FA Cup games too, which should get underway at 8 o'clock. I suppose, unless there are delays, extra time, penalties here, who knows. 1-1. Kevin De Bruyne left edge of the penalty area. Infield to Gundogan, right on the edge of the D. Steers it wide to Bernardo Silva. Whips in the cross, right-footed, all the way to the back post. Cleared away by Sorinola. You can't help but think that Haaland would have been rising on the end of that. Out on the right for Manchester City again is De Bruyne, who shepherds it onto Bernardo Silva, down by the dead ball line again, and he hoists in another cross. That's headed behind by Katic. Complete domination, Dean, at the moment from Manchester City.
Yeah, I mean, it was excellent from Bernardo Silva. He's so hard to mark. You feel like you've got him and he just wriggles away or chops his way past you. A little cross to the back post, and we don't see Jack Grealish get in at the back post and tap in.
Corner whipped in by Foden. Good header away by Boateng, the former Crystal Palace youngster, at the near post. Thumping header away from danger. It's reached the midway point of the Manchester City half. The floodlights are on, and there are lights in blue at the top of the stand. Can just about see them from our commentary position as Giabi plays it back to Tolovierov. A little chip downfield, well controlled on his chest by Bundu, middle of his own half, and good composure by Plymouth Argyle to retain possession. I mean, on the evidence of their FA Cup campaign, extraordinary as it's been so far, they should be nowhere near the bottom three in the Championship, but such is life in football, and the rigours of a league campaign are very different from one-off cup matches, as we know.
Yeah, and what it brings, that's for sure, but it's not a great look. certainly to supporters that you can put in these type of performances in these games when you want to see it week in, week out, especially when they then realise what you're capable of once you set a standard.
Plymouth Argyle fans singing raucously away to our right. All of the players at the other end. The goal that Plymouth are defending. Grealish marauds infield, finds De Bruyne, spins and turns on the corner of the box, and a whip cross into the area, then hammered over the top by Rico Lewis with a sort of scissor kick volley, and he got good power on it but couldn't keep it underneath the crossbar, and it's a goal kick and it stays 1-1 on Talksport.
Yeah, it was a decent turn from De Bruyne on the left-hand side of the penalty area, and then he just tries to curl the ball in. It's headed out just in front of the penalty spot, and it's a Di Canio-esque volley from Rico Lewis, just using that left leg as the balance to then flick the right leg through. It was a decent effort in terms of the technique and the way he got the dip on the volley, but just 3 or 4 yards over the top.
I didn't know whether to bring up Di Canio because of the Dean Ashton axis of goal-scoring technique. And I know it didn't end up in the back of the net. If it had, maybe I would have brought up Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah, well, he broke he broke the graft.
The axis was broken.
He broke the graft, didn't he, Di Canio, with that. Probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life.
As we tick towards the hour mark here at the Etihad. And again, Plymouth with everybody back behind the ball, resolute so far. 5 along the back line on the edge of the penalty area, 4 in front of them and Bundu in front of them. But here come Manchester City breaking in between the lines. Grealish back to Rico Lewis, hammers it over the top. Well, he really should have hit the target there. The flag is up anyway, I think against Grealish earlier on in the move. Lewis with time to take a touch and take aim. From around the penalty spot, it's over, and Pep Guardiola's seen enough. 1-1 with nearly an hour gone, and the Manchester City fans suddenly raise their expectations because Erling Haaland's about to come on.
Well, they do keep getting down the sides, don't they, of Plymouth, putting those crosses in. And is there anyone better in world football when it gets put across the penalty area than Erling Haaland? That's why he's coming on.
Off he goes, Haaland, to replace McAtee. This is the man that so many of the Manchester City fans came to see. Their number 9, 28 goals for the season in the FA Cup, 8 goals in 7 across the course of his career. And in recent matches, Haaland's record, he's played 10 matches since the start of 2025 and he's scored 9 times. And the anticipation levels crank up another notch here, and the difficulty levels crank up another few notches. No disrespect at all intended to McAtee, but just by the presence of Haaland on the pitch, their job has got even harder.
Yeah, I don't think you need to say that when it's McAtee versus Haaland yet. Anyway, this is the man. This is Erling Haaland, the goal-scoring records that he's already set and will continue to. And it will change your mindset with Plymouth defenders. All of a sudden, it will heighten the senses, that's for sure.
He's made his way right up to the edge of the penalty area, in a central area, the number 9. Manchester City with Foden swinging a ball cross-field. Right to left of the near side, beautifully plucked out of the air by Grealish, who dinks in the cross. Haaland, it's over his head, away by Ogbeta, not very far. It's dropped on the edge of the box. Foden with his back to goal, can't get the shot away. Boateng blocks it. It's come back to Bernardo Silva. It's a little bit like when Manchester City were playing against the 10 men of Arsenal in the Premier League earlier this season. It was like a drill, with City just putting their tents down in the final third and having attack after attack after attack. You can't see how Plymouth can hold out, can you? For another half an hour or so plus added time. O'Reilly on the edge of the box, blocked off by Talovierov. It's 1-1 on Talksport.
And they've just got to keep the tempo at the moment, Manchester City, because Plymouth have stopped being able to get out at all. And they're using the width really well, Manchester City. That's where the space is. No room whatsoever between the defence and the midfield of Plymouth, so they're switching possession at every opportunity.
Out to the right this time, and Bernardo Silva shuffles and then plays it back to Phil Foden with a curling shot, and it's wide of goal.
Well, when he gets in those positions, we know he's got the quality, Phil Foden, to just whip that into the near post or the far post, whichever he chooses. Bernardo Silva doing the work down the right, just cutting it back to Foden outside the area. He's trying to curl it into that far corner. It's too straight, so not a bad effort from Phil Foden. But again, it's looking ominous for Plymouth.
12 goals in 28 in the FA Cup for Foden. Miron Muslic, the Plymouth head coach, sharing a joke with the fourth official. He looks very relaxed at the moment. They're going to bring on Jordan Horton very shortly here. Plymouth Argyle. And now Bundu is down the middle into the penalty area, taking on Ruben Dias, who slips, and belatedly the flag does go up, that checkered flag on the near side of the field against Bundu. And it'll be a free kick to Manchester City. I can see they're going to bring on Michael Baidoo as well, Plymouth Argyle, in a moment, and Rami Al-Hajj. So it'll be a triple substitution. St Mirren 2, Celtic 3 in the Scottish Premiership. Celtic heading 16 points clear after Rangers lost 2-1 at home to Motherwell at Ibrox earlier. And Baidoo, Al-Hajj and Horton are ready to go. Final instructions on the near side touchline. You can understand at this point, Dean, over an hour into the game, 1-1, but Plymouth under great territorial pressure from Manchester City.
Well, it's the fatigue, not necessarily the physical fatigue, actually the mental fatigue of the concentration needed to defend for such long periods, that maybe Miran Muslic just wants to freshen up. You can sense that. You can just sense it, can't you, that Plymouth needs something to just change the momentum, if they can, of City attack after attack after attack.
Well, there is a stoppage here because De Bruyne has gone down holding his head, so that gives Plymouth a minute or so's breathing space. Pat on the back for De Bruyne from Nikola Katic. Pep Guardiola, who was sitting down comfortably in his seat in the dugout a moment ago, is now quite frenetic again on the touchline. He goes back and he's pointing at various things and speaking to his assistants again. De Bruyne on his feet. Here come the Plymouth Argyle changes, and the first man leaving the field is Bundu, who has put in an absolutely tremendous effort in the forward line. Michael Beidou, yet to score for Plymouth Argyle since joining the club in January, comes on. Straight swap in midfield. Horton for Giabi, who has done well, and Rami Al-Hajj will replace Bali Mumba in that left-sided position.
Yeah, no need to change the defensive structure at the back at the moment. But again, that freshness, hopefully, to try and get out of their half. Try and just give the defence a rest whenever they can, and try and be a threat like they were in the first half. At least in the first half, they were getting those long throws and at least looking to try and penetrate further up the pitch.
Well, it is still 1-1. The longer it stays 1-1, the more opportunity Plymouth may feel of causing an almighty shock once again in the FA Cup. Nearly 20 minutes into the second half. It is Manchester City 1, Plymouth Argyle 1. Wins in the FA Cup today for Crystal Palace, Preston North End and Bournemouth on penalties. Villa through to the quarter-finals. 2 commentary matches tomorrow on Talksport. Newcastle Brighton at 1:45. 4:30 Manchester United against Fulham, which you can't hear anywhere else on national radio. The holders Manchester United. The runners-up of last season, Manchester City here, labouring as they win the ball back again with Gundogan. Cushioned header out to the right-hand side. Bernardo Silva back to Ortega. Ortega in a claret goalkeeping kit finds Ruben Dias, and now O'Reilly back to Ruben Dias again. They've brought Haaland onto the field, Manchester City. Yet to have a touch of the ball. He hasn't been on for very long, of course. City winning their last 18 FA Cup games against sides from a lower division. 69-9 the aggregate score in that time, and there have been some punishing wins in League Cup matches as well, Dean, for City against lower league sides.
Well, I mean, usually they make these sort of games look very easy, very professional, getting confidence from scoring goals. It's been tough. You can sense that not the best, are they? And they haven't been all season. There's something missing for sure. And again, it's feeling like hard work.
65 minutes gone. Logic tells you Manchester City should get the job done, but this is the FA Cup. Sometimes it defies that logic. Vitor Rice, midway inside the Plymouth half, steers the ball to the left, and Nico O'Reilly. And Manchester City a bit sideways and backwards at the moment. De Bruyne's ball out to Rice again. Good quick touch to the far side, and Bernardo Silva scampers back in field, back to Vitor Rice. Everything in front of Plymouth Argyle at the moment. And they remain resolute, compact in their shape. All 11 behind the ball. 1-1. Grealish infield from the left for Manchester City. Grealish now has marauded up to the centre point of the midfield. Now he's angled the ball right. Opportunity for the cross from Lewis. Big deflection on it. It'll come all the way to the back post and delivered in by O'Reilly towards Haaland. Header away by Katic. Now Gundogan's touch. Square to Rice. Out to the right, and Lewis again onto the right foot. Pulls it back. Only half away. Got lucky there, did Boateng, that his clearance just hit Gundogan. Manchester City regain possession yet again. Come forward yet again.
That's what they've been so good at, is winning the ball back over the years, and then continuing to put that pressure on and test you whether you can reorganise quickly when they switch play.
All of the play at the north end away to the left-hand side of the stadium. O'Reilly with another low cross. Chalavier off there again. How many times did we say that against Liverpool? How many times have we said it so far this evening? A 13th corner for Manchester City beneath the floodlights.
Yeah, and let's give them credit as well. It's been a brilliant defensive display. All they can do is make it as difficult as possible for Manchester City for as long as they can, and they've done that.
We have nearly reached the final quarter of the 90 minutes. 67 have been played. Kevin De Bruyne will take the corner short. Corner of the penalty area to Jack Grealish. Plymouth hanging on at 1-1. De Bruyne tries to bend it. Good save by Hazard. He was expecting a cross. What whip and bend on that shot from De Bruyne. Tried to catch out the giant goalkeeper, who palmed it over the top.
It does really well in the end because he's not expecting it. He is expecting the cross. De Bruyne is just able to put some serious ferocity into the whip. Hazard just about reacts quick enough to flick it over. Great save.
Now De Bruyne delivers into the near post. It's spun off Sorinola, and it's come out to the edge of the box, hit by Foden on the volley. Haaland shot left-footed. I thought Hazard had got a touch on that. Must have gone clean over the bar. A messy way for the ball to reach Erling Haaland, because the touch at the near post was from a Manchester City player. Almost an inadvertent clearance from Gundogan. If he meant to lay it back to Foden, that was incredible. But then Haaland over the top.
Yeah, well, Haaland just peeled away, probably expecting to run in for a rebound, thinking Foden was going to volley it towards goal. He genuinely bobbles it into Haaland's path. He just thinks, I'm going to half volley, side foot this into the far corner. Gets it wrong. Just gets a tiny bit too much on it, over the top of the bar. It's a poor miss from Haaland.
The producers just reminded me, Dean, Haaland's been on the pitch just over 10 minutes now. That his first touch of the ball in the game. It's 1-1.
I think he's almost one of the best I've ever seen in terms of being patient and the discipline needed to play that role when, especially for a team like Manchester City, when you're, like you said, you're not touching the ball, but you have to then be sharp, be alert, which he was there, just the finish wasn't what he wanted it to be. But the best, the most disciplined striker I've almost ever seen.
Former West Ham striker Dean Ashton played and scored in an FA Cup final. Pukac ready to come on for Plymouth. He's a left wing back. High ball downfield by Grealish. Katic slices it away. Right footed, it spirals up into the air. A 15th corner for Manchester City. Ironically, as it's taken short by De Bruyne to Grealish. Down by the dead ball line, Plymouth have massed everybody back again. De Bruyne left corner of the area, bends in the shot. It hit Boateng, and then a bicycle kick away from goal by Beidou for Plymouth Argyle. We've got just over 20 minutes of normal time to go. 1-1 it remains. Still, Manchester City have been parked in the Plymouth half. In the attacking third, still no way through. Plymouth still believe. And here's that change. As we expected, a straight swap. Off goes Ogbeta, and on comes Pukac to deal with the threat of Bernardo Silva and Lewis.
Yeah, well, with Manchester City using the wide areas, of course it's going to be physically difficult for those wing backs. So again, fresh legs on to try, if they can, to see out the final 20 minutes or so.
And O'Reilly will take the throw for Manchester City, level with the edge of the areas. Pukac takes his place on the field, tall and with his hair slicked back. O'Reilly ready to take the throw, all the way back to Ruben Diaz. The Bournemouth against Wolves went to extra time and penalties early today. Bournemouth through on spot kicks. 5-4 the penalties on Talksport 2 earlier. I wonder whether Plymouth Argyle supporters maybe are allowing themselves to dream of the prospect of extra time, with 19 minutes of normal time in the 90 remaining here. It's all Manchester City. It's utterly relentless. No break for the Plymouth defenders. Out to the left is De Bruyne. Back in field now to Ruben Diaz. All of the time they're only 10-15 yards from the edge of the penalty area, Manchester City, but they haven't created a great deal of clear-cut opportunities. Diaz, the number 3, central, out to the left. De Bruyne all right foot, then eventually bends the ball in with his left. Haaland at the back post, over his head, flicked away by Pukac, throw down by the corner flag.
Yeah, when it does go wide, they're looking to get it into the penalty area now, Manchester City, because they're looking for a bit of fatigue. They're looking to try and find Haaland with the early cross.
Diaz again, the centre-half playing as a centre midfielder, finds Grealish, who skips impudently away from three in dark green. The deflection takes it wide to De Bruyne. He's level with the edge of the 6-yard box. A deft chip in with the cross. It hit the first man, Boateng. It's another corner to Manchester City. It is almost predictable now, the pattern of play in the game. Plymouth readying themselves to defend a corner for the 16th time in the game. Delivered in by De Bruyne into the near post, a little dink, headed away, hit on the volley by Lewis. That was goal bound and it came off Nikola Katic. There was a Manchester City fan in front of us, out of his seat, ready to celebrate. The ball has landed at the feet of Pep Guardiola, who wants City to keep the tempo as high as possible. Just caught sight of Ortega to the right, Dean. I can barely remember him having a touch in the second half.
Well, he wouldn't need to, would he? With how deep Plymouth have been. They've not been able to threaten at all into Manchester City's half, but they've defended extremely well. And again, Katic with a terrific brave header from a fizzing volley that came in from Lewis. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to keep just getting in the way and being compact.
And one of his centre-half partners, Talovierov, slides in to concede another corner. 17 minutes to go. Packed with Manchester City fans behind the goal. De Bruyne short. Gets it back from Grealish, better angle to whip in the right-footed ball. It's a delightful ball, and somehow it stays out all the way to the back post. And then it only needed a touch from O'Reilly at the near. Hazard flung himself at it. Maybe Pleguezuelo got the telling touch to turn it away.
I mean, how are you meant to defend against a cross such as that? This time it wasn't whipped in towards the goal. It was played in with finesse, just caressed in by De Bruyne, right into that area behind the defence. As it went up, it's just then, does it hit Pukac's arm, as he's just trying to hold Haaland away, who's trying to get the header in.
Well, play was stopped momentarily, absolutely right, Dean, but it's now resumed again.
Well, I think it's a natural position for him to be in, to try and hold Haaland off. And yes, does it hit his arm, but he's not in control of that, is he, when he's battling with someone like Haaland?
It did hit the tattooed arm of Pukac, but play continues. Manchester City straight back on the attack. Bernardo Silva back to Grealish, right corner of the penalty area. Left-footed reverse ball, headed away by Talovierov. Just too high for Nico O'Reilly, looking to rise highest. Now it's come back to Grealish, 25 yards out. Up towards Haaland! It hit the goalkeeper, and the rebound is wide! Heroics from Hazard and Pleguezuelo. They were up, the Manchester City fans. They thought it was in. How did it not hit the net?
I mean, that's astonishing how they kept that out. Hazard with Haaland's volley with his left arm, and then there was a defender in there too.
Foden's corner, and it's headed away. It's another corner. I think that should have been a goal kick. Looked to hit a Manchester City head. No, says the referee. 19 corners for Manchester City. 1-1 the score. You bet they're living dangerously, Plymouth Argyle. Fizzed in by Foden. O'Reilly is there to head it in this time. And finally, Plymouth's resistance is broken. And Nico O'Reilly with the downward header from close range. His second of the game. A special day for the youngster born in Manchester. It is heartbreak, though, for Plymouth Argyle. Manchester City finally have an inevitable lead. It is Manchester City 2, Plymouth Argyle 1, and City think now that they're heading for the quarter-finals.
Oh, it feels like an important goal for Manchester City. It has been coming. The pressure has just been too much, and O'Reilly with a powerful header at the back post. Horton is up against him. It's a bit of a mismatch. He feels Horton that he's just been thrown to the floor, and he was, by O'Reilly. He was just too strong. The ball very deep from Foden, and he just rises and nods it down into the near post to grab. Here's a Manchester City second.
No foul given. Plymouth wanted a foul. Horton appeals still towards the referee. I don't think VAR is going to bail them out here. Miron Muslic speaks to the fourth official. Of course, VAR will check every goal, but Plymouth are going to have to kick the game off again. They had the lead at one stage. It feels a long time ago now. They're 2-1 down. Manchester City just relentless in their pressure, and at some point Plymouth were going to be breached for the second time, and they have been. So 2-1 to Manchester City on Talksport. The 7 times winners of the FA Cup are in front. It almost feels like they've had to force the ball over the line, and eventually O'Reilly did that.
They've kept going, that's for sure, Manchester City. I think the tempo in this second half has been excellent. They've not allowed Plymouth out at all. And then you've just got to believe that you'll have enough quality then to break them down.
Here's a long throw for Plymouth, in by Pleguezuelo. Katic won the initial flick, away by Vitor Rice. Well, they've got nothing to lose now, Plymouth Argyle. How does their approach change here, Dean Ashton? What, 12.5 minutes plus added time to go? They might as well just throw everything at it.
You'd think so, but that wouldn't be wise straight away. You know, there's well over 10 minutes plus in the game. You're still going to have to defend well. It's just, again, you're hoping for a moment.
Well, they're going to make a change. Cornell Such is going to come on for Plymouth shortly. They're number 6, stripped and ready to go in dark green. Manchester City lead by 2-1. The game day phone in follows us on Talksport 03717 223344 to get your calls in. Weekend Sports Breakfast back tomorrow from 6. Natalie Sawyer and Tony Cascarino, and then commentary of Newcastle against Brighton, followed by Manchester United against Fulham on Talksport, back to back. As Beidou is beaten to it by the sliding Grealish. Manchester City now with De Bruyne travelling over the halfway line. Early ball up the inside left, can't find Grealish. Won back by Katic, and now Sorinola on the halfway line. Forward by Horton, right up the middle, interception from Vitor Rice, and Diaz back to goalkeeper Ortega. A lot of tired bodies and tired minds, even despite the changes for Plymouth, Dean.
Yeah, and you can just sense it from Manchester City's perspective. Sort of sigh of release and a relaxation almost all of a sudden around the Etihad.
Yes, the Manchester City fans are singing, arms outstretched high above their heads in the lower tier of the south stand to our right. All feels quite leisurely again now. Nico Gonzalez, arm around the back of Pep Guardiola, getting some final instructions. Ready to take to the field. One of the next generation for Manchester City. A man already having an impact in the present. First, though, Plymouth will make their substitution, and it's Sorinola, who is replaced by the Hungarian Such. As if they could have any more height in that back line, Dean. Must be one of the biggest average height back lines in England today.
And why not when you've got a long throw in the armoury? Might be needed.
Is that what they're thinking of now, realistically? One long throw, one corner?
Of course. Absolutely. They've not really looked like creating anything from open play, but they do get a long throw or a set play. That's their opportunity.
Manchester City leading 2-1. 10 minutes of the cup tie to go. The quarter-final starting to take shape. We'll have the draw for the quarter-finals tomorrow after the game at Old Trafford, which is live and exclusive with us on Talksport. You can't hear Manchester United against Fulham anywhere else on national radio. De Bruyne back to the centre circle, and standing is Vitor Rice. To the right-hand side now, Foden. Foden shapes to dart in field, and of course they don't need to force the issue as much. Manchester City now, if they get a third, it's tie well and truly over. Just over 9 minutes left. Quarter-final weekend, by the way, the 29th of March. That's when the FA Cup quarters will be off and running. Grealish plays it back to Ruben Diaz, and Manchester City continue with pretty easy possession, leading 2-1 in FA Cup Game Day Live on Talksport with Carling, the official beer partner of the Emirates FA Cup. 18+. Please drink responsibly. Celtic have a fourth away at St Mirren in the Scottish Premiership to lead 4-2. Brendan Rodgers' side back 16 points clear Leeds have a 3-point lead in the Championship, a 1-1 draw with West Brom today. Sheffield United in second, winning at QPR. And on the left-hand side for Manchester City is Grealish. Early ball down the middle. Lewis couldn't get it under control. Running onto it on the edge of the box, he'd have been through. Couldn't control it though, Dean.
No, he's been slightly poor, hasn't he, Rico Lewis? You are allowed at 20 still to have the odd poor game, but there's been 3 or 4 opportunities for him to get on the score sheet. That would have been another if he'd have taken a decent touch. He just missed it.
Gundogan just shy of the halfway line, finding Foden. Manchester City looking in good rhythm and elegant now. Plymouth can hardly get hold of the ball, actually, with time running out for them. 8 minutes plus added time. Ruben Dias goes back to Ortega. And that's the ball inside his own penalty area. Gundogan across to the near side, the left, and Diaz finding O'Reilly. Sure you'll hear from Pep Guardiola and the Plymouth boss Miron Muslic in the game day phone-in once we are done here at the Etihad, and it looks as though the cup tie is going to come to an end shortly, with Manchester City heading through. Again, they will dispatch a side lower than them in the footballing pyramid. Foden gets a standing ovation to be replaced by Nico Gonzalez.
Yeah, it's been a quiet game for Phil Foden. It's been a bit like that all season. He's had his moments, but he's not been able to replicate the season he had of last, where he was sparkling.
Forward by O'Reilly for Manchester City, header away by Katic. O'Reilly on a hat-trick. 19 years old, Nico O'Reilly, another player through the youth system. His senior debut has come this season, and all 3 of his Manchester City goals to date in the FA Cup. As City win a throw in their right-back position, it looks like, on the far side of the field. And they have it now with Rice all the way back to Ortega. Unemployed in the second half, Ortega, and he's put the ball straight out of play. Unemployed in the second half and maybe lacking in concentration. Here's this Plymouth long throw, Dean. Level with the edge of the penalty area.
And again, as they did in the first, you have to take your moment. They've had 1 effort on goal in the whole game and they scored. Can they make it 2?
Here comes Such, 2-1 down Plymouth. Long throw into the area, only half away. Cullum Wright with his back to goal will keep the ball, but he's running away from goal all the time. Goes back to the centre circle and Pleguezuelo slices it crossfield. Header on by Such into the box. Nodded away by Ruben Dias of Manchester City. Good calm touch by Grealish. Back to O'Reilly, who then wins the throw. City 2, Plymouth 1. 5.5 minutes plus added time remaining. They just would want 1 chance, Plymouth, even a half chance at sending this tie to extra time.
Well, you've got to try and get on the second ball from those long throws, because it was well flicked on and there wasn't really a player on the move enough to anticipate that.
Diaz back to Ortega. His clearance hangs up high in the air towards Haaland on the halfway line. Cushion header to De Bruyne, nods it on to Grealish. Haaland accelerates into the box, waiting for the ball. Grealish has had to hold up play. Grealish then chips it crossfield to Lewis, who chests it down in the central area, and Haaland is now just trudging to the edge of the box. A little bit frustrated there. Haaland wanted the early ball over the top from Grealish. 2-1 to Manchester City it remains. We're into the 86th minute. Diaz wide left to De Bruyne, and De Bruyne has popped it down the middle, steered away upfield by Katic. Near total dominance from Manchester City in the second half in particular, and Plymouth haven't been able to really get hold of the ball, but they've made it yet another fantastic cup tie. And whatever happens, even in the Championship this season, even if they were to go down, Plymouth fans will find so much history and excitement to draw upon in terms of what they've done in this competition this season.
You can build huge memories for your football club and the fans that you're representing in this competition. They already have done, even today with the first goal in the game. But this isn't over yet, of course. All it takes is 1 moment for that to change. And
now 5 minutes 3.5 minutes rather. Not sure where I got 5 from. 3.5 minutes to go. 5 for Celtic at St Mirren, that's what I was thinking. St Mirren 2, Celtic 5. And 3.5 minutes to go here, plus any added time to follow. You're with Talksport. The game day phone-in coming up shortly, so stay with us to join Jamie O'Hara and Jason Cundy. Miron Muslic a bit frustrated. And the phone-in will get underway at about 8 o'clock on Talksport. And should this game end in 90 minutes, as it looks like it's going to do. Manchester City in front by the odd goal in 3. Bernardo Silva back towards the halfway line, and now Vitor Rice square to the feet of Nico Gonzalez. The sight of Rodri doing individual training this week will have heartened Manchester City fans. Some suggesting, could he play any football before the end of this season? Gundogan in the centre circle, races up the middle, he's chipped it to his left, behind Haaland, but Grealish is there to keep the move going. De Bruyne's on the overlap, De Bruyne's low cross, spilled by the goalkeeper Hazard, and he was lucky that it fell to Horton, who was able to hack it clear. Now Vitor Rice back to Ortega, ahead of Callum Wright. No chance for Plymouth to counter. Manchester City have it back, they lead 2-1.
Yeah, he was clever in the way he patted that down, Hazard. He knew that it wasn't a Manchester City player coming in. He just patted it for his defender to get it away. It wasn't the best cross from De Bruyne. We know how good he can be.
De Bruyne's ball upfield, steered away by Talovera off to the halfway line, but then De Bruyne in quickly to win it back off Horton. Haaland tearing up the middle, he wants a goal. Touch forward by Lewis towards Haaland, right down the edge of the penalty area, and Lewis was caught by Pukac as Plymouth win the ball back. Referee's pulled it back, it's a free kick to Manchester City. Less than 2 minutes of normal time remain. Celtic have won 5-2 at St Mirren, so they are 16 points clear at the top in Scotland. In the FA Cup today, Crystal Palace, Preston and Bournemouth already through. Manchester City about to join them. Grealish inside left channel. Some of the City fans sufficient, even at 2-1, that the job is done and they can head for the exits now. A professional second half display from Manchester City, because it's not easy breaking down a team as resilient as Plymouth, and they are a championship club, so they've been well drilled in it. Maybe they're not done yet. Right down the left-hand side for Plymouth, and he's put it through to Al-Hajj, edge of the penalty area. He can steer it across the face of goal. Manchester City couldn't clear there. Ortega eventually does. That is a wasted opportunity. Maybe that was the chance they were looking for, Plymouth.
Oh, it just opened up, didn't it? For Al-Hajj. I think he's got to go himself. He couldn't quite sort his feet out. He then poked it into the area. And then there was a little mix-up with De Bruyne and Ruben Diaz. And
oh, Haaland could be clear here. Right edge of the penalty area, through on goal. Saved by Hazard. The rebound will come back to Haaland. Haaland in the box, steers it square. Kevin De Bruyne slides in, pokes it home from on the goal line, and sends Manchester City into the FA Cup quarter-finals. Boy, they've been made to work hard for it, but Manchester City will get the job done, and Plymouth's historic and heroic run in this competition is finally going to come to an end. De Bruyne there to apply the finishing touch. It's all over now. Manchester City 3, Plymouth Argyle 1.
Oh, and it happens. You know, Plymouth are pushing, aren't they, for an equaliser, historic equaliser. That you're going to leave gaps. It was just the ball through towards Haaland, who opened his body up to try and place it into the far corner, 1v1 against Hazard. Slightly narrowed angle. It was a good save, and then so unselfish from the big Norwegian. Just spotted a gap between the legs of Katic and saw the run from De Bruyne, who slides in the middle of the goal with the outside of his right foot to put this away from Plymouth and get himself on the score sheet.
5 minutes of added time, but that'll do it. 3-1 to Manchester City. More home fans satisfied the job is well and truly done now. Heading away from the Etihad. And maybe 3-1 about right overall. I don't think any more would be fair on Plymouth for the effort they've put in. But Manchester City have been just so dominant in the second half, and they have had too much. There's right crosses for Plymouth, and it's headed away by De Bruyne. I wonder whether Al-Hajj will be replaying that half chance on the edge of the box tonight, just before the third goal. It could get worse now. Bernardo Silva over halfway, knocks it down the middle. Talobierov standing tall and strong to intercept it before he gets to Grealish.
And Haaland's furious because he wanted that back. He's just missed his chance, hasn't he? And set up De Bruyne, but he'll want a goal. Every time he steps on the pitch, he'll want a goal.
Good voice and good noise from the Manchester City fans now. 3-1 up and heading for the quarters in the FA Cup. They've reached at least the semis in 7 of the last 8 seasons under Pep Guardiola, winning the competition, lifting the trophy twice in 2019 and 2023. And suddenly it's gone right up their priority list, hasn't it, Dean?
It's huge for them. It's something they can strive towards, and to turn to anyone that's been critical of this season, if they were to go on and lift the trophy, they've achieved something in what's been a pretty bad season so far.
Kevin De Bruyne has held the play up for Manchester City, and he's pinged a delightful ball out to the left, and Grealish, who took it in his stride beautifully, suits the defender backing off. Grealish, as the Manchester City fans get to their feet, curls across against the shins of Talobierov, and it spins away. 3-1 Manchester City. Now just 2 minutes of added time to go. They've given it absolutely everything, Plymouth, and some of these players look absolutely exhausted. They've got a big game in the Championship away at Hull on Tuesday.
I mean, they'll take some positives from this performance, that's for sure. And maybe even a little memento with a shirt at the end, I'm sure.
And they're still singing, the travelling fans. 280 miles back to Plymouth after this, as Grealish races down the middle to Manchester City. He's poked it through here to Haaland from the angle, taps it back to De Bruyne, nudges it to the back post, headed across, lovely move. Katic in the way to stop it from reaching Grealish or Lewis.
Just felt like one too many, didn't it? One too many passes in the end to each other. It was well crafted, but then well defended.
Well, there's only a minute and 15 seconds to go. Can Manchester City add extra gloss to the scoreline perhaps here? Bernardo Silva will take a left-footed and in-swinging corner, drifts it towards Ruben Dias at the near post, and the header wide was from Rice in the end, I think, in a cluster of bodies at the near post. The Brazilian defender nudges it wide. Pep Guardiola says he's got the most incredible focus and intelligence on the field, and Pep Guardiola paces about his technical area now, knowing that Manchester City, having gone 1-0 down at one stage, have got the job done. And with hindsight, Dean, the equaliser in first half stoppage time was absolutely key, as Hazard, the Plymouth goalkeeper, clears poorly, but it's hit De Bruyne and gone out of play.
Yeah, you do wonder if Plymouth could have gone in ahead at half-time. I still think if Manchester City came out and played with the intensity that they did in this second half, they still would have overcome Plymouth.
Manchester City are through to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup. The prospect of a major domestic trophy this season still very much alive for Pep Guardiola, who has a hat-trick of FA Cup triumphs in his sights. There is a warm embrace with the Plymouth head coach, Miron Muslic, and all credit to the Championship club. Plymouth's magical, magnificent run in this competition across the course of the season has finally come to an end. They beat Brentford, they beat Liverpool, but Manchester City ultimately had just too much. At one stage, Plymouth fans were daring to dream of a hat-trick of their own, a hat-trick of cup upsets this season, when Talobierov headed them in front after 38 minutes. That was as memorable a moment as we've seen in the FA Cup so far this season, and for Plymouth Argyle, ultimately, that was as good as today got, because Nico O'Reilly equalised, importantly, just before half-time. Then the youngster added a second after wave of Manchester City pressure with 14 minutes to go. De Bruyne wrapped it up in stoppage time. All credit to Plymouth and their 7,800 travelling fans for Manchester City. Do the business, they are through. Manchester City 3, Plymouth Argyle 1.
Well, it wasn't to be for Plymouth Argyle, whose fairy tale story, I guess, in the FA Cup comes to an end. Beat Brentford, came past Liverpool, of course, but Manchester City, too much for them on the afternoon. They have, though, done the Pilgrim fans and the EFL proud. Their resistance eventually broken in the second half. I think tiredness set in when those superstars on the City bench entered the fold. Once again, though, I think we got a pretty enthralling FA Cup time. We'll have much more to come on the Talksport network this weekend as well. I'll tell you all about it a little bit later on, but a reminder, the game day phone-in with Jason Cundy and Jamie O'Hara is on the way. 03717 223344 if you'd like to discuss any of the day's stories. Preston North End, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth and Manchester City now join Aston Villa in the hat for the quarter-final draw tomorrow. The big headlines: head injury to Palace's key man Jean-Philippe Mateta. His chairman called it the most reckless challenge he has ever seen. Referee Michael Oliver needed VAR to intervene to help him show a red card. The Burnley players refusing to shake the hand of Preston's Militon Osmajic. He, of course, being investigated by the FA for an alleged racist comment towards their teammate Hannibal Mejri. He scored, he celebrated towards the Clarets fans. What did you make of that? Bournemouth through on penalties. Wolves are out. Their talisman Mateus Cunha saw red for violent conduct and could miss some key matches. In Scotland, defeat for Rangers. Celtic have beaten St Mirren 5-2. They're 16 points clear at the top. And in the Championship, Sheffield United closed the gap on Leeds at the top. There was also another win for Frank Lampard's Coventry. 03717 223344. Get your calls in for the game day phone-in if you'd like to discuss any of the day's big stories. Okay, let's take a closer look now at today's action with Carling.
Emirates FA Cup Roundup on Talksport with Carling. Brilliantly refreshing from the first sip to the last. 18 plus. Always drink responsibly.
Former England West Ham striker Dean Ashton at the Etihad for us. In the end, Dean, a professional job from City.
Yeah, I think second half that intensity was what they needed, and it just pressed Plymouth back, that they just couldn't cope in the end, and that's what's required when you know you've got the talent ahead of a team. Then it's about your application, your intensity. They had that in abundance in the second half, and it was eventually enough. You know, in the end, you know, Hazard made a couple of amazing saves, some great blocks, so it could have been a few more, but in the end, you know, a professional job done.
Great for some of the Plymouth players at the moment, just having a bit of a chat with Pep Guardiola out on the pitch. You know what he likes to do, a little bit of coaching, you know, sharpen them up. That's who he is. But also we're seeing Nico O'Reilly giving interviews to our colleagues on TV. And what stands out to me about his game, and it has represented the Manchester City Academy in recent years, is the maturity in his game for a youngster. You know, I remember when Rico Lewis came through, and within a few months he was pretty much being talked about for a potential England international cap, which of course he went on to get. And Nico O'Reilly, if he stays on this trajectory, could be set for something in the next year or two, possibly similar.
Well, I think, you know, what's required of any young player that comes into a Pep Guardiola side, with the pressures that come with playing for a side like Manchester City and the expectation, to have all of those things to contend with and look as calm and composed, to take risks, and also I thought his application physically, the aggression he showed for a young player was important at times. A couple of times he clattered into Plymouth players just to show it's, you know, just because he's young, he's not going to be bullied in any way. And then that quality that's required of any player for Manchester City on the ball, which I thought his distribution was okay. The way he fed Jack Grealish nice and early with quality was very good. And then you get yourself 2 goals. Ultimately, he's half saved them today with his 2 goals, and it'll be a great day that he'll remember for a long time.
At the other end of the spectrum in a Manchester City shirt was Kevin De Bruyne, who I think we should discuss his performance. We saw some wonderful touches from him, some great delivery at times. He also got the 3rd goal, of course. Actually, when this City team are functioning at their best, it still feels like a really good Kevin De Bruyne is central to that.
I mean, his quality on the ball is at times unrivaled, and we saw glimpses of it today, you know, with that whipped finish that nearly went in and caught the goalkeeper out, and then the cross that somehow didn't go in at one point, getting himself a goal. I mean, ultimately, it's down to physicality of just how long and at what level Kevin De Bruyne will play, because he's looked like he's really struggled this season physically for the demands of the Premier League. Players are running past him. He's not looking as sharp as he did, but still the brain's the same, the technique's the same. So given time and space, he will still be a class act.
Absolutely, he will be. And today, of course, too much for Plymouth Argyle, who listen, it was always going to be a tough challenge for them today. I think they understood that. The changes almost reflected the importance of staying in the Championship, with a massive game at Hull City coming up on Tuesday night. But they can take real pride from what they've done in the Cup, and also the way they stayed in the game today as well.
I mean, you can play well and get well and truly beaten and embarrassed at places like this. So to produce that first half the way they did, to take the lead, the way they defended, the small amount of chances that they gave Manchester City in that first half, they're all massive positives that you have to try and take. Nobody expects you to win this game. Nobody expects you to get anything out of it. You've given your supporters something to remember. You've given a really good account of yourselves. Hopefully then you can now take that into that run-in and try and keep yourselves in the Championship.
It's going to be very, very important for them moving forward. The way they have, though, played of late, and actually just the way that I think this little cup run that they've had has kind of galvanised the team and galvanised the fan base. Great fans, the Green Army. But they've also had this FA Cup run to look forward to. There's an energy about the team right now, and I think the new manager has brought that in. Did you see them pulling out of the relegation zone in the Championship, carrying on some of this good form from here on out?
Yeah, well, a couple of decent results, a couple of draws against Luton and Plymouth. They would have wanted a little bit more. I think just obviously the players that they've brought in January are still bedding their way in. That defence looks stronger, doesn't it? It's just how can you try and replicate that performance today in the Championship? If I was to watch that team against Hull and they play in that manner, you'd really fancy them to get a result or to win games till the end of the season. Can they mentally replicate that? Because their standards in the FA Cup have been so high. You've got to be able to try and replicate that on a consistent basis, and that's what the manager will be hoping for.
We'll see if they can do that on Tuesday night. Dean Ashton, stay there. Thank you very much indeed. We'll discuss some of the day's other results very shortly with Dean. So we'll be back at the Etihad in a moment. But that was a look back at Manchester City's 3-1 win over Plymouth in the FA Cup fifth round. All thanks to Carling.